Animate number 12 is going to be about creating animations that have objects that fade. They can fade in, they can fade out. You can make them do both. I'm going to show you how to do it. You have to, kind of focus and concentrate, but you can do it. All right, so we're going to make 4 items that either you can make them fade in, you can make them fade out, you can make them do both of those things, fade in and out. I'll show you. Each one on a different layer. Requirements for the movie, at least 60 frames in length. We'll just work with that today. You're going to use classic tweens, which was in the previous assignment, but if you missed it or you need a review, you're going to see it in this assignment again. And each classic tween should be on its own layer, and it's going to have to fade. Now you're going to find as we go through this, sorry, I can't make this scroll as quickly as I want. You can create, you can do these fades with just little objects that you could draw. It could be anything. It doesn't matter what it is today. The goal of the assignment is to begin to understand how to do these fades, how to make things fade in, how to make things fade out, how to work with the fade. So it could be something that you draw, like a box or a circle or a triangle or anything, but it could also be, and I'm going to show you this, you can also grab an image off the internet if you would like to. It has to be school appropriate, but I'm going to show you how to do that in case you would like to do it. What do you have to do differently if you're going to use an image off the internet? All right, let's hop over here to Animate and let's look at an example. I'm going to run this several times because there are different things going on, and I'm going to direct you about what I want you to pay attention to. First couple of times through, look at the red circle. When I run the movie, watch the red circle, it fades away. All right, here it is again. The red circle is fading out, fading out, fading out until it's gone. Here's what's happening with that red circle. It's visible at the beginning of the movie, but as we get down to frame 60, or actually I went to frame 80, I made mine a little bit longer, but as we get down to the end of the movie, it fades away and fades away until it's completely gone. That's a fade out, right? All right, now, this time when I press enter and I watch the ghost, in fact, let me rewind. I'm going to rewind this back to the beginning. At the beginning, at frame number 1, the ghost is not there. All right, when I press enter, you'll see the ghost fade in, right? It is not visible at the beginning, but it becomes visible, and it is visible at the end. So the ghost is fading in. It's not fading out. It's not fading away. It's fading in. All right, so we'll look at how to do that. Now let's look at the yellow star. I'm going to run it a couple of more times. Concentrate on the yellow star. The yellow star is like blinking. It fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out, fades in, fades out. So we'll look at how to do that. If that's something that you want to be able to do, we'll look at how to do it. Now you can, on your version of this assignment, you can create any kind of fades that you feel like you want to do. They can be fade ins, they can be fade outs, they can be fade in and out, in and out, in and out. It's going to be up to you. I'm going to show you how to do it. The last thing that we're looking at is that set of eyes that's over there on the right hand side. And it's doing the same thing as the ghost. If I rewind this back to frame number 1, you'll notice that at frame number 1, the eyes don't show up. They're not there. But when I press enter and I run the movie, what they do is they fade in. They slowly appear. All right. So that's a fade in. I did the same thing with the eyes that I did with the ghost, but the difference is I didn't draw those eyes. Those eyes came from the internet. That's an image I got off the internet. All right, so we'll look at how do you do that? How do you get an internet image on there? What are the steps? All right, so let's close this. Let's get this out of here. Sure, I'll save it. Why not? And let's go to work on building one. Now watch. You know, I've been getting emails that I don't understand how to do this. You have to pay you have to pay attention. You have to look at the sequencing. You have to press the right keys. You have to think it through. All right. So I'm going to create a new movie. I'll just use HD. That's fine. I'm going to go with a black background on this one, but you can do whatever you want on the background. Now we're going to start off just with a shape that is, I'm just going to draw it. I'm not going to get it off the internet or anything. You can do any combination you want on yours. If you feel like you understand what you're doing, these could be all pictures from the internet, or they could be all things that you drew just using the drawing tools that are in the program. Suit yourself. All right, I'm going to get the oval tool. I'm going to set the fill color to red. I'm going to do pretty much exactly what you just saw, almost. I've got no stroke set on the properties panel. I'll just come over here and draw a red circle. All right, good, got it. I'm going to go down the timeline. The next step is on the timeline. You'll have to go to at least frame 60. That's required today. I want at least 60 frames, so I'll just click on frame 60. Now, important here, press F6, not F7, F6. All right. Now, on the gray bar that's on the timeline, right-click, and create Classic Tween. You might see that warning message about selected frames can be tweened. Okay, just click OK if you get that warning. Rewind back to frame number 1. Go back to the beginning. Back on frame 1. Use your arrow tool and click on the object. Right? It's just a red circle. Now here's where the secret happens. You have to click on the object. If you don't click on the object, if the object is not selected, this is not going to work. Right? So you have to click on the object. And when I say object, in this case, what I mean is the red circle. Come over to the right-hand side. On the Properties panel, you're looking for color effects. Right now it says none. Drop this menu. And alpha is what we want. Alpha is the same thing as opacity or transparency, whatever word you're used to using. So I'm going to click where it says alpha. I get a slider that can go from 0 to 100. So now what I have to do is I have to think about how do I want this fade to work. My time indicator is sitting at frame 1 of the movie. I'm at the beginning. Here's what I want on mine, but you can set it up however you want on yours. For the red circle, I want it at the beginning to have an alpha value of 100%. That means I can see it. It's visible. Now, I'm just going to grab my time indicator on the timeline, slide it down to frame 60. I'll go down here to frame 60. All right, I'll even click right here on frame 60. Click on the object. Make sure the object is selected. I'll go over to the color effect menu. I'll go to alpha. And I'm going to take that slider, and what I want to have happen in this example is I want the red circle to fade away. It's going to start off with an alpha value of 100, but it's going to end up with an alpha value of 0. I'm going to slide that all the way down to 0. An alpha value of 0 means it's transparent, or its opacity is all the way down, or you can't see it. Think of that any way that it helps you to think of it. So I'm going to set the alpha on 0. So let's think about what we've got. At the beginning of this little movie, it's only 60 frames long, the alpha value of that red circle is 100. At the end, the alpha value of that red circle is 0. Adobe Animate is going to take care of everything in between and create a nice fade out. And there it goes. When I press the Enter key, you can see the circle and it fades away until it is gone. And that means its alpha is 0. If you can't see, it's not really gone. It's still there, but you just can't see it because it's been turned, the alpha value has been turned down to 0. All right, so that's one down. Okay, so here's how we're going to proceed. Let's rewind. I'm going to lock layer 1, and I will create layer 2. I'm going to do something different on layer 2. All right, well, on layer 2, I think I'll bring my ghost back. Okay, so I'm going to tap B for brush. I'm going to set my fill color on white. And I'm just going to draw my little, ghost. This is not fancy. All right, and I'm going to put some eyes on there, and I'll give him a mouth like this. And I'm going to tap K for the flood fill bucket and fill that up with white. Let me Control Z and undo that. Apparently I have a little gap here that I'm going to try to repair. And I'll try to fill that again, see if we do better. All right, that looks better to me. Okay, so there it is. This time it's, I'm going to do, actually I'm going to do the opposite of what I did before. But I created something using the paintbrush. Okay, so that's at frame 1 of the movie, right? So I'm going to come down here to frame 60. I'll click on frame 60 and press F6. You have to remember to mark the spot down here. I'm going to come down to frame 60, and I'm going to tap F6. All right. Then I'm going to right-click anywhere on the gray bar that's on the timeline. I can right-click, and I'm going to create a classic tween. All right. I'm going to click OK on my warning box there. Now, in this case, what I want to do is I'm going to do just the opposite of what I did with the red ball. I want the ghost to be invisible at the beginning and make him become visible as time goes on. So I'm going to rewind this back to frame 1. I'll even click on frame 1. I'll use my black arrow tool and I'll click on the object itself. I'll click on the ghost. You need to do that. You need to make sure that the object is selected. I'll go over here to the color effects part of the properties panel. It says none. I'm going to alpha. And I want that to start off at 0. All right, so I'm making sure that the alpha is 0 at the beginning. Now I'm going to drag my time indicator down to frame 60, and I'll click on the ghost down at frame 60, down at the end of the movie. Remember, tweens are all about defining how you start and how you end. So down here at the end, I'm going to click on the ghost, color effects, alpha, and I want that to be 100. So I'll pull the slider up to 100. So I want the ghost to start off at 0 and come up to 100. So that's going to be a fade in, and let's take a look at it. And there it is. So now with my red circle and my white ghost, I have just the opposite happening. Back here at frame number 1, the red circle's visible, but the ghost is not. When I press enter, the red circle fades away, but the ghost fades in. All right. That's good. Perfect. So I'm going to lock layer 2. I'm going to create layer 3. I'm going to rewind so I'm back at the beginning. And I'll show you what I'm going to do on this one. You don't have to do it just like me, but I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go over here to this where I had the oval tool showing. Click and hold. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to poly star. I'm looking over on the tool options on the right-hand side. I've got it set on star and 5, which is what I want. I'm going to change my fill color to yellow. And I'm just going to come out here and draw a star, like that. I'm going to go down to frame 60, which is the end of my movie here on the timeline, and tap F6. I have to mark that spot by tapping F6 on frame 60. I'm going to right-click anywhere on the gray bar on the timeline. I'm going to create a classic tween. Click OK on my warning box. I'm going to rewind it back to frame 1. I'm going to use my arrow tool. And actually, I'm going to make several changes in opacity here, or alpha. Sorry, I use the terms kind of interchangeably. All right, so I'm back on frame 1. I'm going to click on the star. I'll go to color effects, alpha. And for me, here's what I'm going to do. I want it visible at the very beginning. So I'm going to leave it set at 100. Now I'm going to pull the time indicator forward to wherever I feel like. I think I'll go about 10 frames, right about there, and I'll click on, I just on the timeline, I just clicked on frame 10 there. I'm going to click on the star. Let me just, sorry, here's what I need to do. I'm going to come to frame 10. I'm going to click on frame 10 there, and I'm going to press F6. All right. click on the star. Right, I have to mark the spot. That's important. You gotta, pick a frame, press F6 to mark the spot. I'm gonna click on the star. I'm gonna come over here to color effects, and it's already showing me the alpha. And so what I want to have happen there is I want that star to disappear. So in those first 10 frames, it starts off at 100 and then goes down to 0. But now I'm going to jump up here to about frame 20, press F6, click on the star. And on the color effects, it's showing me advanced. I want to switch it to alpha here. And I want to bring it back up to 100. And then I'll click on frame 30. I'm just kind of jumping up in increments of 10 frames here. I'll go up to frame 30. I'm just going to tap F6, click on the star, and I want to go back down to 0. So what I'm doing is picking spots on the timeline where I say, okay, I'll go to this frame. I'll mark it by pressing F6. I'll click on the star, and then I'll set the alpha to be whatever I want it to be. So right now I'm kind of taking the alpha down and up and down and up, and this is how we're going to get that blinking kind of effect that you saw in my original demo. So I'll go up to frame 50, I'll tap F6, I'll click on the star. We're going to take that down to 0 one more time, and then I'm pretty sure that I have it so that at frame 60, but I could go to frame 60 and make sure. If I go to frame 60 and I click on the star and I look at the alpha, I want to make sure it's 100 at the end. There we go. So if you'll look at my layer where the star is, you'll see several black dots, and that means I pressed F6 right there. I went to here and I pressed F6 and I changed the alpha value, and I did it here, 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 and you can do it wherever you want. Excuse me. Now when I run that movie, if you'll look at the yellow star, it's doing that blink thing. It fades in and fades out and fades in and fades out and fades in and fades out. And you could make that happen really fast. I didn't have to skip 10 frames. I could have skipped 2 frames if I wanted to, or 5 frames. You could make it blink really quickly. All right, so now we're down to our last thing here. I'm going to go ahead and lock layer 3, and I'm going to add layer 4. I'm going to rewind it. And now, what if I want to use a picture off the internet? Well, all right, so let's take a look at that. I'm going to go back to my Chrome browser, and I've done some searching here, and I don't think this is really going to be a transparent image, but I want to show you the whole process here. So I did some searching for cat eyes, but I found this like black and yellow cat silhouette thing. It looks like it's been threshold adjusted in Photoshop. So I'm going to use this. So if you find a picture you want to use off the internet, here are the steps. Do your Google search and go find what you want. I'm going to do a right click, save image as. I'll browse around to a folder where I want to put it. I could put it in downloads. I could stick it on my Google Drive. I have my Google Drive hooked up here. I could put it there. You got to save it someplace where you're going to know where it is. In this example, I'll put it in downloads. Looking at the name of it, it says cat stare with transparent background. That's okay with me. I'm not sure it really has a transparent background, but it's all right. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. All right. Back over to Animate. Now remember, I've already created layer 4. I've already made a layer for this, so I have an empty layer. I'm ready to go. I'm back at frame number 1. Okay, I'm on frame number 1. Here's how I go get that picture. It's File, Import, Import to Stage. Don't click File and Open and expect it to work, because it won't. File, Import, Import to Stage. Now I got to go find it. Well, I put it into my Downloads folder. I'll click by date modified here, and there it is. All right, so I'm going to open it. Now, it doesn't really have a transparent background. I didn't expect that it did. The internet always lies about that. It's too big. I don't want it to be that big. So I'm going to use the free transform tool. I'll tap the letter Q. I'm just going to size it down. And I'll put it over here. And then I'll switch back to my black arrow. All right. Now, I just have to create a fade with that. I can make it fade in or out or whatever I want to do. All right, well, so let's do all the steps that we've done before. I'm at frame 1, and I've got the picture on there. I'm going to go down to frame 60 and tap F6 to mark the spot. You have to do that. All right, you have to remember to mark your spot by tapping F6. Then I'm going to right-click on the gray bar, and I'm going to create a classic tween. I'll click OK on my warning box. I'll rewind back to frame number 1, click on the picture, and I think what I'm going to do is a fade in, which means that at the beginning I want to set the alpha on 0. So at the beginning you cannot see that cat. I'll fast forward, I'll scrub forward down to frame number 60, click on the picture, go to the alpha setting, and I'm going to bring that up to 100. So that little cat face should fade in as the movie goes. Let's run it. And bingo. So I'm going to run this several times. In fact, if I hit Control Enter, it will open it up in a little window that loops over and over and over. And so we can just kind of sit here and watch it for a second. So look at all the things that are happening, like the red circle is fading away. The ghost is fading in. The star is blinking. The cat is fading in like the ghost. I did the same thing with the cat as I did with the ghost. I created a fade in. Again, the way I opened that little separate window right there is Control Enter, and it runs your movie and just kind of loops it over and over so you can see it. And then if you're done, you can just close that window. And there it is. That is the assignment. That's the assignment on fades. Now, you know, the movie's probably a little bit long. I probably went kind of slow trying to explain it. So use your time well. And if you need a little extra time to get it done, to finish it up in another class day, you could do that. It would be okay. But fades are pretty useful, so I'm trying to show you how to do it. It's your turn.